Back in 2020, Friedman Amps joined forces with influential 80s guitarist J.K. Lee to produce a limited edition amp that combines some of the most soaring and face-melting tones into the one head. And now, it's back, but just a little smaller. J.K. Lee, for those who don't know, is an extremely accomplished and, as I said, influential 80s guitarist, probably most known for his work with Ozzy Osbourne on the Bark at the Moon and the Ultimate Sin album. As I mentioned, this new version of the amp is a condensed 20-watt version of the limited edition 100-watt version that Friedman released a few years ago, because let's be real here, 100 watts is fun, but who can actually crank that these days? Other than J.K. Lee, of course, who turns these up to 10 on stage and completely deafens the first few rows of his gigs. Let's dive right into some specs. Now, if you do just want to hear the sounds of the amp, there are chapters down below where I'm kind of going through all the sounds, so feel free to skip to them if you do want to. But for all those amp geeks out here, let's dive right in. Very much going for a Marshall flavour, the JEL20 is loaded with 2 EL84 power tubes and 3 12AX7 preamp tubes. The Marshall inspiration doesn't stop there as well, with the amp's 2 channels. Channel 1 being inspired very much by a Plexi, and then channel 2 taking all of its inspiration from the iconic master volume amps of the 80s. Very GCM 800 inspired for anybody who has used one of those amps. You guys have no idea how many times I got the preamps and the power amp tubes confused, which meant poor Aaron was stuck behind the amp there trying to get footage, so you can come out now, man. Each channel shares a 3-band EQ just on the front of the amp here, and you may have noticed there are these 3 switches here. The bright switch controls, obviously, the kind of brightness of only channel 1, so that's the Plexi. You can either switch that down there, put it back to the middle, or kind of boost the brights just in case the treble isn't enough for you. The middle button being the channel select, and then the last one here, the SAT switch. What this actually does is on each channel, it'll add more gain, compression, and saturation. I'll kind of demonstrate that during the sound exactly what that's going to do, but just a word of warning, it does boost your volume up quite a bit, so obviously adjust that before doing it on the fly. Channel 2 also has a push-pull add more gain control there as well, you know, just in case you needed more gain with that already super high gain channel. Last few features I want to touch on just before we dive into some sounds are some of the controls on the back. Now, there is a master presence control. There's a transparent effects loop that we do have a delay going through today, which you'll hear in the sound demos too. And maybe the coolest feature for anyone recording in a bedroom, and that's the XLR cab simulated output for complete silent recording. And we do have that going into our interface today as well. So you'll hear a little bit how that sounds in the sound demos too. Okay, without further ado, let's dive right into what this amp can do. Today I'm using the Charvel DK24HH, which I definitely felt was very J.K. Lee inspired. And I am using the Diamond Memory Lane delay pedal, which is just going through the effects loop as I mentioned. One thing I'm definitely noticing is how kind of reactive the EQ is across there. There's kind of, you can go super extreme with it, you know, all the way to the top with the bass, the treble, you know, the middle as well, and it's still completely usable. I always find with some other amps is that there's always a sweet spot, certainly with EQ, whereas with this, it's, you know, it's still really, really usable across kind of all those extremes. And definitely pushing the gain on this, of course, you're kind of going to get that more plexi pushed sound, but while still retaining kind of the clarity of it as well, which, yeah, is super fun. Cool, so let's see how channel 2 handles with a bit more gain. Well, that was really fun, wasn't it? Safe to say that obviously the Jakey Lee 20 here, the JEL20, it's going for that super hot-rodded, British, Marshall-y, 80s kind of soaring tone out of it. I think there's no mistaking in that. So if you're looking for that super focused, kind of biting British Marshall-y tone, but then also with a second channel, in the form of the plexi, which gives you even more flexibility, then, I mean, what are you waiting for? This is your answer here in this small red package. Hopefully some of the sounds that I played out of this can really show you just how much you can get out of this. As with all our videos, you know, who's it for? That's one of the important things. Obviously, for anybody who's into 80s metal, 80s rock, more kind of vintage inspired tones on the heavier side, of course, this is going to be absolutely ideal for you. For anyone maybe looking for something a bit more modern, right out the box, it's not going to give you, you know, that super tightness and that super sort of modern, I guess, is the tone that you would expect from, say, like 5150 or a modular. In saying that, putting a noise gate in front of this, sticking an overdrive at the front with the drive down 0 and the level up full, I think you're definitely going to get closer to that if you do like, again, slightly more vintage inspired tones. But what do you think? Is this something that you would want to try? Could you see yourself gigging that? Continue the conversation obviously down below in the comments section. That's exactly what it's for. And while you're there, hit that like and subscribe. It's totally free and totally helps the channel, so thank you so much. I've been Kieran, playing my best imitation Jakey Lee 80s metal today, and this has been the Friedman JEL20. Thanks a lot and have a great day. it.